Studio 550, this is the board meeting on KTRS.
910, Big 550 KTRS. The board meeting is in session for 2015. John Diehl, Speaker of the House. John Diehl, we have our long national nightmare is over, and John Diehl is now Speaker of the House. However, because of that, he was called away last minute, so he could not attend the first session of the new year. We should also welcome in the people who are watching on KPLR Channel 11.2. Thanks for joining us here in 2015. We're on STLtoday.com, the opinion tab. We're on the KTRS app. We're at STLtoday.com. We're on KTRS radio. And now in the 9 o'clock hour, we're on 11.2.
We're everywhere.
If you can't find us, that's your problem.
Right.
It's not our problem.
Right.
All right. That is Jane Duker, political consultant, attorney. Good morning, Jane Duker. Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody.
Chad Garrison is with us, editor of the Riverfront Times. Good morning, Chad Garrison.
Morning.
And filling in for John Diehl is Ed Martin. Ed, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you, McGraw.
What is your official title?
Well, Father, we got a puppy this Christmas, so I seem to be cleaning up a lot of Penny's problems. But I'm chairman of the Republican Party here in Missouri.
That is correct.
I do a bunch of stuff, too.
Okay, good. And reformed
Doesn't seem that interested in titles.
reformed politician, we say?
Yes, yeah. Well, no, I never won a race, so it's not.
Yeah,
well,
politician's a strong word.
Don't drag me into that class of
That's
people.
a strong word, politician.
That's right, wannabe.
Jay Kanzler is a reformed politician, and he didn't win either.
Well, he
so.
got ordained a minister after he ran, so maybe I got to go do that.
All right, fair enough.
As a Catholic, it won't work.
At noon today, they're holding a news conference downtown to talk about a proposal to bring an NFL team to St. Louis, Jane Duker. The only interesting thing is that we currently have an NFL team, and the owner isn't talking to this group of people who are trying to build a stadium for an NFL team.
Right. I mean,
What is going on here?
It is very interesting how quickly the rhetoric has changed from we're going to keep the Rams to, oh, by the way, he's not returning our calls, so we're hoping to get another boyfriend because our current husband is leaving us. I mean, I'm surprised that it sort of switched so quickly from are we trying to keep the Rams to a lot of people saying, are we just going to, stay an NFL team and is it going to be someone else? I mean, that being said, I think, it's important for us to have this discussion. I think whether the Rams leave or not, ought to be a discussion that we have.
But the Rams, it's a foregone conclusion, Chad Garrison. The Rams are leaving, right?
I mean, he's going to build a free stadium. I mean, with his own money.
Right.
Well, how can we keep him? He's the owner. I mean, the NFL, they do have these bylaws. Jan, I saw you tweet them out the other day.
I did.
But, the NFL has given in to Kroenke before. They've allowed him to have, cross ownership.
Right.
They won a team in L.A., here's a free one. Here's a free stadium. This guy's going to build a stadium. There's no way they're going to stay here. So I think, it is. I feel bad for Peacock and what's the attorney?
Bob Blitz.
Bob Blitz today. Here they're having this press conference.
Right.
And it's like, why? I mean, the wind is gone from those sales. I mean, hopefully.
Well, but their spin is, Ed Martin, this isn't for the Rams. This news conference is for the NFL, for the Chargers, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and for the Raiders.
Look, McGraw, you're a transplant here, but you've been here long enough that you've seen the breadth of what people have come to see.
Right.
But we knew that Stan Kroenke had this position and had the money to do what he's going to do for years. Mm-hmm. And nobody did anything until 6 weeks ago. Look, Peacock's a great guy, very talented. Blitz is one of the best lawyers in town, talented. But to go 6 or 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, after all that we've seen in this community, Kroenke's looking at it saying, guys, you didn't pay attention. For 5 or 10 years, I haven't said a nice thing about you. But I haven't said anything about it.
I haven't spoken.
I haven't spoken. But that's like why get in a fight about saying, this looks pretty tired out? Then he's fighting about it. Right now he's gone. He's going to break ground. He's going to make more money. And we will never acquire another team. We will not be able to lure another team. Not after Ferguson, not after Anheuser-Busch is gone, not after all these institutions have shifted out of St. Louis, and it's a disaster. And here's whose feet it lands on. It lands on Jane's pal, Jay Nixon, and the other leaders in this region, all Democrats, who have failed to come up with a vision that makes this region remotely attractive.
But
I don't know
the-
if it's.
Oh,
Hey,
look
go
at-
ahead,
I-
go
I
ahead,
don't know
Chad.
if this is
The
a political
political-
issue.
I don't- I-
you know?
Who do you want to be leaders?
Well, look, I mean, well, then you can credit the Democrats, I guess, for getting the Rams here. I mean, if
Eagleton did sign the worst lease ever for
Well,
anybody.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
point.
You know,
Again,
I do
a
agree with
disaster.
you.
The Democrats. Well said, Chad. Thank you.
I do agree with you that we probably. I think it's going to be hard for St. Louis to get in our team, be it the Oakland Raiders or
Oh.
what have you. I mean, we've already lost 2 teams in a span of what 30 years now or
Right.
so. I think it's going to be a real challenge to lure
It's all
anyone.
going to be whether the NFL has decided that they want St. Louis to be a market or not. And it's, that's not something that any Democrat or anybody has any control over.
No,
and
that's-
the
Jane,
bottom
it's
line
all
is
about- it's all about-
the NFL is going to decide what is
It's
in their
all about-
financial
Stan
best
Kroenke,
interest.
it wasn't like Stan Kroenke, the only proposal that Stan Kroenke rejected was the one that the downtown CVC partnership had to put together
Right.
to
For the
make the
arbitration.
Dome a top-tier stadium.
Right.
I mean,
Correct.
that's the only thing. Outside of that, he hasn't said anything. He doesn't want to stay here.
In other words, what we have, and I'm not blaming. Maybe it wasn't possible. But what we have is a failure of leadership. Whether you want to call it the elected officials or not, or the business leaders or the local community, to articulate a vision of why this region we would want to support it. Because right now, as Jane said off air, the left and the right are going to unite on this. Taxpayer dollars for another billionaire to make
Right.
more money? Never, ever, ever. So we don't have a vision that says, 20 years ago you talked about private-public partnerships, you talked creatively about development. None of that happened until the gun is now out of its holsters.
Well, that's the-
First of all, I disagree with that. I mean, in public and in private, the discussions about this have been going on for years. We've all known that. The day the Dome went up online, it wasn't top tier. We knew the day the Dome opened that we were going to be having this conversation about a new stadium. That's just the way this rolls now. We have the best fans in sports. I mean, come on.
Well, it
I mean,
doesn't
we have
roll that way
supported
in
a fam-
Dallas. It doesn't roll that way in
well,
other big cities.
I mean,
where
and I'm
the-
not saying we need to, he's willing to build a free stadium out in LA. I don't know why we'd be offering taxes and public funding because we want to own it. Why that's some sort of requirement here, I am unclear about that. I
Well,
don't know why we want to
because
publicly
he
own
wants to
this
make more
stadium.
money.
Well, a lot has
No.
changed also in the last 20 years.
Right.
When we built Edward Jones Dome,
Right.
people, or back then was
15
what?
stadiums came
TWA
online.
Dome. Yeah, but that was during the height of publicly financed
Right.
stadiums. And so,
Times
that's
have
changed
changed.
quite a bit
But when
as
the-
well. But Kroenke had this vision for at least well over a year is when he bought that property in Inglewood.
Right.
So to say that, we didn't react fast enough. I mean, this is something he's had in the back of his
Right.
head
We've
for
never
a long
Here's
given him
the-
a proposal
here's
except
exactly,
the
we haven't reacted
arbitration.
at all.
We
Here's
haven't.
here's the out question. Here's the $64,000 question, in which I don't think anyone's paying attention to, and that is, he still hasn't acknowledged that he's going to play in St. Louis next year. This year coming up,
He has no choice.
No, that's not true.
He can go year to year, but the NFL has said no relocation. He can't just not
The
play.
NFL has all sorts of
He
rules
has a
he's not paying
franchise-
attention to.
Yeah,
well,
that's
but we have a
true.
franchise agreement. He has to play here, and he's
has-
still under the lease.
Hold on a second. He has until the end of the month
Mm-hmm.
to say, I'm gonna take the lease for 2015.
Year to year.
Correct. He can
Right.
go year to year.
You're saying he could play the
but
Rose
it doesn't
Bowl in LA or
terminate.
something.
the
I
lease.
understand that, but starting, he could say today, I'm playing next year in the Rose Bowl.
I don't know if that's
No,
true. If that's true,
no, I don't think he
we
can.
should. What we should do is we should call Rich McClure at Unigroup and make sure that none
No,
of the
because
moving
that's
vans
a
are allowed to
relocation.
be
He can't do that without permission from the NFL, and he has to play here.
No, but the no,
legally.
no, no.
Legally, the NFL has to what? Sue him and say you're breaking the bylaws.
Right? No,
Correct.
no, no.
Oh, well, no,
With
we have
the
a lease and a franchise
with
agreement.
with the lease, he can tell the city, I'm not playing at the Edward Jones Dome for 2015.
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
I think that's a fact. It's
Well,
not
I-
a question of
gotta find out.
agreeing or
No, I
disagreeing.
mean, you got to look at the
The-
lease.
right, the
he
lease
can
is
go
he can-
year to year, but he can't just terminate the lease. He had.
Okay, so I don't
He's been
understand-
given
Well,
the right
that
to go
doesn't make
year to
any-
year.
Well,
Right.
Year to
Year
year
to
means
year
that he would
means-
sign up at the end of the month and
Right,
say, "I'll
at
be
the
there
end of
next
the month,
year."
he
Well, but
has
I
to
think
tell
you have
us-
to give a year. You have to give a year notice.
At
You
the-
can't just pull out
At the
on a
He already
month's
did
notice.
that.
the
He already
notice,
did that.
the notice is due at the end of January.
That you won't be
pull
here
it
next
up.
year.
But, well, okay.
The notice is due at the end of January.
disagree that he can
Okay,
leave,
let's
but-
say, for argument's sake, he has to stay here next year.
Okay.
Or he ends up staying here next year.
Right.
Who's going to go to the game?
Well,
Well, I
yeah.
mean that's the other thing. I mean that's a calculated play on his
knows
part.
that, right.
Is that no one's going to go to the game. So he can then say, hey, look, I'm not getting the support here in St. Louis. One more reason I can leave. We've done a pretty good job supporting him. It hasn't been sellouts.
And they haven't put a good product on the field, and we still supported him.
In over 10 years. So,
and this is what makes me think.
I think he could he lose a year worth of tickets? Yes.
Out of his own pocket.
NFL has a huge, they make most of their money on television anyway.
Right. They're not,
so, and he's a billionaire. He can lose some money on the
and I think
so basically this has turned into Major League, where a woman owner wanted to move the team and they had to lose X amount of games.
But I don't want to have the little pieces pull off. I do not want to see what's underneath the little pieces of Stan Kroenke. That's for sure.
I'm not convinced they're going to play here next year.
I think he's not playing around. I think he knows.
Have they been playing for the last 10 years?
Well, again, they're not physically not going to be here. Because he hit such a power play. He's not returning phone calls. Right. He's already made the announcement. He doesn't play these games. He might just he already knows what he's going to do, and he could say, "I'm out." NFL, sue me. The NFL, when the Rams moved to St. Louis, they failed the relocation vote the first time. Right. So he's not afraid of the NFL.
I just don't think that he's playing emotional blackmail. A lot of people say, oh, this is just a ploy. And I'm like, he's willing to give up the revenue. He's willing to look at the other owners and say, come after me. He made this announcement, knowing full well that there were going to be consequences. And I think he's a businessman. He always has been. And he's saying, this is what I'm going to do. Stop me.
Jane Duker, Chad Garrison, and Ed Martin in for John Deal. The board meeting is in session here on the Big 550 KTRS and KPLR Channel 11.